On this week's UBC From Here, using genomics to pinpoint differences in salmon.
Kokanee salmon occurs in two different forms. One spawns in the shoreline and one spawns on the stream. And so I'm trying to use this bottom-up genomic approach to figure out what is different about them, to identify why some of them spawn on the shore and some of them spawn on the stream.
Raising a glass to Okanagan wines.
We're working on issues around the wine industry, and for us at UBC, this is how we're trying to bring international expertise to bear on some of the issues that our region's facing, and so that we can have an impact on the innovation and the social and economic development of the region.
And analyzing the future of Canada's aging infrastructure.
Part of our mandate at UBC in our School of Engineering program, we have introduced an infrastructure management course. So with this infrastructure management course, and we're training our students criticality of infrastructure, how do you make decisions, how do you prioritize, and then how we manage this aging infrastructure.
Welcome to this week's UBC From Here. I'm Emmy Chahal. When Matt LeMay started his PhD research at UBC, his initial focus was on kokanee salmon. But little did he know the science would evolve to allow for faster and more precise DNA sequencing. His research will transform provincial fisheries management strategies. This year, Matt's work was recognized as he received a Graduate Research Award.
In broadest terms, I'm a molecular ecologist, and so what that means is that I read genes or even genomes these days in order to try to determine how the ecology of a species shapes their biodiversity or their evolution. And so I'm doing that project right now on kokanee salmon, which are the freshwater version of sockeye. Kokanee salmon occurs in two different forms. One spawns in the shoreline and one spawns on the stream. And so I'm trying to use this bottom-up genomic approach to figure out what is different about them, to identify why some of them spawn on the shore and some of them spawn on the stream.
Matt has been an exceptional researcher. Since his time here at UBC, he's shown dedication, focus, initiative. He's harnessed new technologies. He's learned the skills necessary to both complete his thesis work, but also to bring it to the next level, to disseminate it within the scientific community, both through his oral talks and international meetings, but also with really an exceptional number of publications, especially for a graduate student.
The field of genomics is expanding very rapidly, and it's also becoming a lot cheaper as we go. And so it's an amazing time. So for example, the proposal that I wrote when I started this project, completely different from what I ended up doing because the technology didn't even exist in 2010 when I started my PhD. And so it's been evolving with these emergent technologies as I go. I've been able to do things that when I wrote my proposal I didn't think would be possible to do. We're at the point now where I'm essentially sequencing genomes within a couple months and then looking for adaptive differences between these two groups.
The research that Matt is conducting has been focused on Okanagan Lake and the two forms of kokanee in Okanagan Lake. The future really will be to extend the work done in this one location now province-wide. The idea is to try to understand if the patterns that we're reconstructing in Okanagan Lake are actually the same as Kootenay Lake and Wood Lake. Are we seeing parallel evolutionary processes, or are we seeing some independent patterns and processes emerging?
Conservation officials are very enthusiastic about these new tools that we're developing. What they do right now is morphological, so you can only tell the difference during the spawning time. And so current conservation means going out in boats in the fall and just counting how many fish there are. But with these tools, you can go out any time of the year, catch a bunch of fish, and then be able to tell the difference. I'm just really interested in this molecular ecology approach, so using genomic tools to try to learn more about ecological aspects of threatened or endangered species. And so I hope to apply some more of these emerging genomic technologies to help with conservation strategies for more threatened species.
UBC's Faculty of Management has forged a unique relationship with the Kedge Business School of Bordeaux, France, that should bear fruit for the Okanagan wine industry in the years to come.
A lot is happening in the wine industry. You have more and more consumers around the world. It is interesting to see that basically 50 years ago you had approximately, in big figures, 30 countries around the world which were consuming wine. Now you have almost 100 countries consuming wine. One of the business consequences of that is you have around the world more and more wines coming from different parts of the world.
We're delighted actually to be doing a collaboration with Kedge Business School in France, working in particular out of Bordeaux, and most especially with Jacques-Olivier Hesner. We're working on issues around the wine industry, and for us at UBC, this is how we're trying to bring international expertise to bear on some of the issues that our region's facing, so that we can have an impact on the innovation and the social and economic development of the region.
I mean, here something is happening. You have these guys here, happy, to live around this lake. They have very nice, conditions. They make good things, but no one knows about it. This is not fair, and we had to try to deal something out of that. This collaboration actually started 2.5 years ago. The signature of our agreement between UBC over there, Sauder Business School, and the Bordeaux Business School. And people I met in Vancouver say, well, you're going to discover something. And I discovered definitely something, one region that I wasn't aware at all of, with a lot of surprises and a lot of interesting things. There are many threats, and challenges for the region here and for its wine. One of them, I think, probably from the very beginning, and this is where we are at the point of, is to make sure that collectively, the industry, more or less these 200 wineries existing here, are defending and promoting their wine in more or less the same way, with the same major attributes when they telling a story.
For us to be able to engage with that sector is clearly important to help businesses and organisations to develop and to achieve their aims and objectives more effectively, and actually to do so in the context of what the communities of this region desire for their futures.
Hi, I'm Rosemary Jean Thompson, and welcome to UBC's Next Big Thing. Today's guest is Salmon Tesfamariam. He is the Associate Professor in the School of Engineering here at UBC's Okanagan campus. Today we're going to talk about infrastructure. Back in 2012, a report card was released about Canadian infrastructure and how we were doing, and it seems to me we weren't rated all that well, poor to fair. What is UBC doing to deal with infrastructure and to help prepare our next generation?
Part of our mandate at UBC in our School of Engineering program, we have introduced an infrastructure management course. So with this infrastructure management course, we're training our students criticality of infrastructure, how do you make a decision, how do you prioritize, and then how we manage this aging infrastructure. And then most of the project they do is with actual municipality data, so that the students, once they graduate, they will go out and work in different municipalities and engineering firms. So they will be our next generation trained students. And this is quite a unique program in Canada. Only few universities, they have this course that we have introduced in our School of Engineering.
So this course basically prepares engineers working within municipalities and governments to be able to look at infrastructure. Certainly the report not looking so good for Canada in the case of not really maintaining or being able to deal with the breakdown of infrastructure.
Exactly. So with all this different infrastructure system we have, managing this aging infrastructure, decision making is a very complex process where they need to understand the economics of it. They need to understand the aging deterioration, the mechanics of it. They need to understand how the decision level at different level of governments are made. So by bringing this knowledge, they need to understand how to minimize the overall cost and risk this infrastructure are subjected to. At the same time, given the limited budget, all municipalities and decision stakeholders they have, and with more customer demanding higher level of service, it's a course that is bringing the knowledge that they have gained over the last 4 years into one course.
Sounds like to me our UBC students will have a little bit of an advantage going out in the workforce when they're looking for those engineering jobs by having that extra knowledge of how to manage better. I know you've been doing research around that as well. What kind of research have you been doing that will help our local governments and across Canada better plan out their maintenance programs?
So we have here actually a very strong infrastructure management research group. Myself and Dr. Rehan Sadiq, we are the two collaborators who've been working together on this type of project. Some of the key projects that we are undertaking as we speak today is with the different municipalities in the Okanagan region. The type of tools and knowledge base that we're developing for them is risk-based prioritization. So not every infrastructure asset that is failing is critical.
Right.
So that's a component that has to be taken into consideration. So that likelihood of failure with all deterioration, environmental condition loading, and then if this system fails, what will be the consequence of failure? So integration of this likelihood of failure and consequence of failure is what we call risk-based prioritization. Now with municipalities, with different decision makers, the tools that we have developed for them, they can use and prioritize managing their infrastructure.
Wow. That's another example of how UBC does the research here but takes it out into the community and helps support our environment around us and our local government.
Exactly. And then part of this research that we undertake, we're training a lot of students.
Excellent.
Master student, we tend to engage our undergraduate students in our research group. We're training a lot of PhD students, postdoctoral research fellows coming from different areas. So all these are our part of our mandate is training of highly qualified personnel that we're sending out that will be helping decision makers, engineers and government at different level.
Salmon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Rosemary, for having me. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
And that wraps it up for this edition of UBC's Next Big Thing. Until next time, I'm Rosemary Jean Thompson. Make it a great week.
Well, that's it for this week's UBC From Here. For more stories about the Okanagan campus, visit ubco.tv. We'll leave you this week with some images from an open house held for outgoing UBC President Stephen Toop. Thanks for watching.
This is my first farewell event, and so I have been trying to process a little bit what that means. And I guess being here in the Okanagan, I certainly have a tremendous sense of pride in the work that thousands of people have done now over the 8 years that I've been here, looking at the development of this campus, which really started from, a very small base, a solid base, but a small one, and seeing, 8,000 students, seeing professors from all over the world, the kind of reputational growth that the campus has experienced, it's really, for me, pretty moving. People ask the question about legacy quite a lot, and I must say that I sort of resist trying to establish one legacy. I think that when one's a president of a university, these are institutions that last for hundreds and thousands of years, and I think that the legacy is really, I hope, one of stewardship. It's trying to take something that had strength and bequeathing it to my successor with perhaps a little more strength. I think that's really the legacy that you can give. Tried to work hard on improving undergraduate education, worked hard on internationalization, but with lots of people participating in that work. So I hope the legacy will be a sense of a team with a purpose and having achieved a little bit of improvement over something that was already very strong.